It's 9, so if the subcommittee is ready, we can get started.
Oh, yes. Welcome, everyone. Good morning. So today is Friday, September the 10th, and this is the agenda. We're going to be going over the agenda for the ad hoc Main Street Revitalization Subcommittee. So with that, I will call to order and roll call. Staff will be doing the roll call.
Vice Mayor Montano,
I'm here.
Councilmember Chua.
Aye.
All members of the subcommittee are present. We can go on.
With that, we will also move on to Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone can stand. We'll start. Evelyn, would you like to do the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and
justice for all.
Great, thank you. You may be seated. Okay, now we are going to item number 3, approval of the agenda for September 10th, 2021. Is there a move to approve the agenda?
So moved.
So second. It was moved by Councilmember Chua and seconded by Vice Mayor Montano. Okay, now we're going to item number 4, public forum. So members of the audience are invited to address the subcommittee members on any subject not on the agenda. Speakers must state their name, address is optional for the record, and limit their remarks to 1 minute or less. For items not listed on the agenda, no response is required of subcommittee members or city staff. However, subcommittee members may ask staff to place the item on a future meeting agenda. Okay, so now we are on item number 5, business items. Selection of a chair and a vice chair.
Move to nominate the vice mayor for chair.
And I second that. So there is a consensus. And the way I see this, I'd like to do I always like to do co-chair when I was on this housing subcommittee. I was nominated as the chair, but I'd like to alternate and share. So we will have a co-chairs, myself and Evelyn Chua. So this way we both have an opportunity to run the meeting.
Okay.
Is that okay?
That's fine with me.
All
So
right.
moved.
Second. Okay, so now we're going to be on item 5.
Chair.
Yes.
I prepared something for the roles just because I wanted to get into the rest of the agenda. So I wrote something, and I think Ashwini or whoever taking the minutes. So this is it. It's a draft. We can expound on it later on, maybe on the next meeting. But for now, I think this will be good. It's good enough for this first meeting. So in order to create the roles, there is a need to define the vision. After the vision is the mission statement and then the roles. So for the vision, I wrote down, our vision is to transform Main Street to a place for everyone to enjoy. That's the vision. The mission statement is, our mission is to bring and keep the best businesses and to provide a vibrant place for gatherings and entertainment for all residents, and to preserve the city's history for the next generation. That's our mission statement. Then we go to the roles. To create, plan, get approval, implement, monitor, short or tactical or long strategic plans based on our vision and mission statements. Let me repeat that. Our roles are to create, plan, get approval, implement, monitor, short and long-term plans based on our vision and mission statements. That's it.
Great. That's it. Great. Thank you so much. And you can also include, when you say based on our vision, that could also include community input on there as part of our.
That's part of the mission. It's
Right.
to all residents.
Okay, great. I love it. Excellent. Okay.
Okay, moving on.
So B, so on staff, did you have any comments on item B?
So the next step after those roles will be.
Wait, excuse me.
Oh, sorry.
So staff, did you have any comments on item B?
Vice Mayor Montano, I think Councilmember Chua said this is where we begin. So we'll bring it back again for approval next time at the next meeting.
Great.
So Chair,
Yes,
So-
please.
the next step I would like to see because the way we did our mission statement, if you notice, it's to keep the best businesses, a vibrant gatherings and for entertainment for all residents and preserve history for the next generation. So the way I see it is Winnie would probably, because you've worked on this already, to bullet it out under economic development, which are the businesses, and then entertainment for the event, and then the history preservation. So that's how I would do it. You can bullet out all the different items that's under that you know now. Then we can work on it next month.
Right. Yeah. Thank you so much. So,
Okay.
thank you, Councilmember Chua and Ashwini, and we will have a follow-up on the role of the subcommittee with Councilmember Chua's recommendations.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Okay, now we're going to item C, a status update on Main Street revitalization elements. Staff.
Great. Thank you, Vice Mayor. And if we can bring up the presentation, please. And I will kick it off. So good morning again, Vice Mayor Montano and Councilmember Chua, Ashwini Kantak, Assistant City Manager. And I'm joined by several members of our executive team since this revitalization effort involves many, many departments. So really excited to be here this morning to share what we have been doing since May and what we have planned for the next several months. Our multi-departmental team meets on a regular basis. And as you will hear throughout the presentation, we have a lot going on to support both the near-term and long-term revitalization of this really important area of Milpitas. So if we could go to the next slide, please. So as you both are very well aware, Main Street was a historic downtown of Milpitas and a key connection between San Jose and Oakland. And with your leadership, Vice Mayor, City Council has expressed an interest in leveraging the history and culture of Main Street and revitalizing the area as a vibrant downtown. So we brought a plan to the full council on April 20th this year, and again on May 11th as part of the budget discussions. And on May 11th, council provided direction to staff to move forward on this revitalization effort. Costs at that time were estimated at about $165,000, and funding was slated to come from multiple sources, including the Community Benefit Fund for the street front improvements, CIP for certain CIP projects, public art monies for mural and public art installations. And then we were also looking to target raising money through donations and sponsorships. And since then, through the discussions on the American Rescue Plan Act or ARPA funding, an additional $500,000 is slated for this effort. We're planning to bring a more detailed plan to council in October. And we also have funding for community events as part of the ARPA plan, some of which we anticipate happening on Main Street. Next slide, please. So here's a quick summary of the various elements staff has been working on. We'll be discussing several of these in more detail throughout the presentation. And just wanted to note that we do have a separate discussion item following this one on Better Block. We wanted to provide a little bit more detail and also seek your input on some options for that event. And so community conversations, these happened, there were 3 community conversations that happened between April and June of this year. And topics were focused on business and economic development, housing, and culture and history. And Jay Lee from planning will share more information on this. Better Block, as I noted, this was something that was actually previously approved and planned for 2020 to the pandemic, and Alex Andrade, our Economic Development Director, will cover it briefly in this presentation, but really talk about it in more detail in the following item. Storefront Grant Improvement Program. This is being also led by Economic Development. They're currently working with the owners of 2 properties, and we anticipate that a large portion of the ARPA money will be used for this. Mural program, as you know, Council has been discussing this and has recently provided some direction on this program, and staff is currently working on the first murals on Main Street with a focus on the history of Main Street. Holiday magic events in December, there's a lot going on. We're really excited about these community events, and Renee Lorenzen will be covering this in more detail. Activation of Main Street through farmers markets, food trucks, music, art installations, although a lot of this will be occurring as part of our holiday magic events in December. We're also looking for opportunities to see how we can continue this on an ongoing basis so that we can activate Main Street and draw people to this area. Gateway and Main Street specific plan process. I spoke earlier about the community conversations that occurred earlier this year. It was a great way to engage the community, get them excited about Main Street as we kick off our specific plan process. And again, Jay Lee will be sharing more information about this. And then a potential business improvement district. This obviously would be a great tool to engage Main Street property owners and ensure long-term investment into the area to foster economic vitality. Economic development staff will be leading this. Of course, this is really dependent on interest from the property owners, but it's something we hope to pursue in the next few months. And so with that, if we could go to the next slide. I'm going to hand it off to Renee Lorenzen, our Recreation and Community Services Director.
Thank you so
Good
much.
morning. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Good morning, Vice Mayor and Council Member, and thank you, Ashwini. So I'm going to go over the many details about Holiday Magic, which include the ice rink, music and food, community opportunities, the layout of the event and how it affects the streets, banners, lights, donations and sponsorships, and murals and art installations. Next slide, please. So this is our Holiday Magic logo. It's Holiday Magic on Main Street in our own Milpitas, California. We're very excited about this event. It kicks off on Saturday, December 4th and runs through Sunday, December 19th. Next slide. The event itself features a synthetic ice rink that's 70 feet by 24 feet, has many activities, entertainment on the streets and the sidewalks, cultural, professional, and grassroots local performances, photo ops and Santa photo areas. We will be making it snow daily over there as well. We'll have community-sponsored trees and snow globes, opportunities for field trips for our local schools to come and ice skate. We'll have holiday movies, singing and karaoke, and food and drink. So what you have on the screen right now is actually a calendar of the entire event. And you'll notice in the middle, there are some themed nights surrounded by the regular holiday weeks. So I'm just going to briefly go over those theme nights with you. So we have a stocking stuffer savings night. We have an ugly sweaty sweater party night, excuse me. We have a Santa Paws pet night where you can bring your pets to get their own Santa photo and some goodies for them. We have a global holidays night where we're celebrating the cultural diversity of Milpitas in a big night filled with all types of culture. Mistletoe magic date night where you can drop your children off with us at the Milpitas Sports Center and you and your partner or your spouse can come and enjoy a child-free evening. We have Silver Bells Nostalgia Night, where we're focusing on old-fashioned holidays, probably playing White Christmas as our movie that night. We have a characters on ice where we're encouraging everyone to dress up, and then we'll have some staff dressed up as popular characters ice skating as well. Tons of toys night, Christmas karaoke where we're going to have sing-alongs and sort of a Milpitas Got Talent, a Christmas or holiday style, and then a reindeer games, which we're focusing on events and opportunities for teens. So that is a rundown of that schedule. On the weekends, we're focusing, you'll notice there's no themes on the calendar, but it's really just the biggest nights, most anticipated attendance. And so we're really focusing on the magic theme on the weekends.
Wow, that's really great. You got a packed month. That's wonderful.
That it will be. We're going to have a lot of fun out there. There's no doubt about that.
There's one thing you mentioned about singing. So there was a time when Mayor Estevez and the consul, that was in the opening night during the Christmas tree lighting ceremony. We sang "We Wish You a Merry Christmas." The whole consul sang. Maybe,
yeah, I remember. Yeah,
maybe that would be something that would be really nice.
Yeah. Well, and we're also anticipating with the singing competition that we'll need some guest judges. So I would assume that maybe some of our council members would want to participate in that way as well. So we plan on having a very fun evening that night. Lots of singing.
I'm very impressed. You guys are doing an excellent job.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Next slide. So we have two different layouts. I'm going to go over both of you real briefly. We have an event layout for the weekends, which is Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, and then another layout for Monday through Thursday. Want to give a nod to our fire department for helping with these layouts. So like I mentioned before, we do anticipate a larger audience during the weekends. And also we want to highlight the majority of Main Street as much as we can in the event area. So you'll see in yellow that we are, and then in orange, some key things, which I'll point out in just a second. The yellow is the event area for the weekends. And so we are in our parking lot and in the adjacent parking lot, which is Tequila Shots parking lot. For the main events, you'll see the orange rectangle there is the ice skating rink. And then we're also going to be all the way down Windsor. You'll see in that cul-de-sac right behind that there's another orange block that is our mobile stage that will be parked out there for performances and movies and things like that. And then you'll see that the yellow goes north all the way up Main Street to Weller Street, right in front of the public library. And so we plan on having activities and performances and singing, and they call them buskers, which is the street performers, and activity tables all throughout that yellow portion. Food trucks will probably be in the parking lot or parked on Windsor with beverages. Any of our Main Street restaurants that want to participate as well have been invited. So that will be the entirety of that area up to the corner of Weller down to almost Carlos Street. So we really wanted to highlight Main Street and all the beauty that's down there and all that will be happening in the coming months as well.
Great.
Next slide. So this is the weekdays, and it might look drastically different, but there's a good reason why. So while Main Street starts, school is still in session and people are quite busy during the weekdays and getting ready for the holidays. And so we've condensed the area to the parking lot, and then behind also on Windsor, we will be using that as well. Of course, the skate rink is fixed in the same place, that doesn't move. But what we're gonna do is pack in the activities and movies and maybe some ground performances where you've got our grassroots groups and our local dance troupes and performance groups out there dancing within this smaller event area. And that way, if the visitors are less, the feeling of the event itself is that it's well attended, and that energy that's created when you've got people in a space like that. So that is the event area for the weekdays, and it also be less impactful on the businesses surrounding. But those are the two layouts you'll see during those 2 weeks.
Great.
Next slide. So we're going to move on to lights and street banners. So as requested by council, and we will have the lights on the street trees going from Weller to Carlo. But we're also going to be putting up special street banners for Holiday Magic. And those street banners will run from Weller to Carlo. It's about 30 poles. And just to note that the remaining banners down Main Street past Carlo, which is going south, those banners are still in design, where a number of the departments are working to create those banners with the new city brand. So that design will be different than this one. So just wanted to make sure that when you show up on Main Street, you're going to see the Holiday Magic banners in the event area, and then the new city banners with the city brand throughout the rest of Main Street. So what you're seeing is actually one of our light poles where the banners will go. And we've got the Holiday Magic logo on one side, which features the trees and the snow and the magic, and then that it's Milpitas, California. And then if you go to the next slide, please, we have options for the other side of the banner. So staff is working on what that message will be. So we wanted to bring this to you guys as well. So we have sayings like Happy Holidays, Celebrate, Merry and Bright. And so when you're driving down the street, either south or north on Main Street, you'll see the logo and then the message from the city to the passersby for the holidays. So we're working on that. So any feedback you have on that is greatly appreciated.
Wow, nice.
Next slide. So Magic on Main Street is going to be amazing. With any event, there are some challenges. So we did cost out the event as estimates before we dove into it in detail. So the costs for services and purchases are a little bit higher than anticipated. That's not uncommon, but it is something that we go through when we price out a new event. There are some staffing constraints. It is quite it's 16 days long. So we're working on that. COVID uncertainty is also a challenge. We're just not sure how comfortable people are going to be in 4 months or 3.5 months coming out. The great thing is that ice skating and being outside, those are a couple things that even through the initial start of the pandemic were acceptable activities. So we are going to promote our event as safe, and we'll promote distancing and masking while we're out there. And then of course, weather contingencies with any winter, late fall events. There is a possibility, knock on wood, of rain. We're making it snow ourselves, so we're not worried about that, but any rain that might come our way, we are in a good spot because we are mainly in that parking lot with the overpass as sort of a barrier. So if there is any weather issues, we will update what we're doing to make sure that if we're out there, that it's safe for the people to be out there with us. Next slide. As we communicated to council, staff was going to be actively working on donations and sponsorships. So we currently have raised $45,500 in cash and in kind with the following sponsors: Amazon, Bayview Golf, City Ventures, HMH, LPMD Architects, the M Group, McCarthy Ranch, Roland Land Company, Tequila Shots, and Toll Brothers. So we're very excited to have them as a list of our sponsors. And we are still recruiting more sponsors as we go. A big thank you, recreation staff, economic development and planning staff for all their help getting leads and meeting with us with these sponsors. So we're very grateful for their generosity. Some other successes that we just wanted to point out for this subcommittee is that the community group participation and in speaking with businesses, such a great and positive response. People are very excited about the holidays for 2021 and participating with us. We have launched our muralist request for qualifications. So that has gone out. So we are getting responses back from qualified artists who are going to be doing a number of murals with us. But of course, our first project is our Main Street mural that you approved a couple meetings ago. And we are working on really fun, exciting, and beautiful holiday decor, banners. We have snow globes that we're creating along with community trees that people can sponsor and decorate that'll be throughout the event. and of course, some fun merchandise, things like personalized holiday magic masks and socks and things like that for people to purchase and keep. And maybe even some special City of Milpitas wrapping paper. So we're working on some really fun stuff that we're excited about that will just elevate the event even more, make it even more magical. So I think that concludes my portion.
Thank you. Great.
Thanks, Renee.
Thank you.
Oh, Vice Mayor, you're muted.
Can you put the previous slide back? I had a question. Excuse me. So, Renee, wonderful presentation. You on the current sponsors, have you reached out to all the business owners on Main Street, specifically the historical segment?
Yeah, we have gone down the street and we still have more work to do. So we're specifically targeting restaurants and we've talked to the most immediate neighbors as well. Okay. And some of the business owners that are in the other buildings that are a little bit more historical, Mr. Prakalisi, people like that, we've started outreach to them as well.
Okay, great. So, yeah, I was going to mention that because he owns several buildings there, and
he does.
So the other person, I can't remember his name, but those are I think that would be like a buy-in or they'll take ownership, and I think they'll love that they'll be able to sponsor something for their businesses or their area. Exactly. And then the other question was on the mural. Have you decided where that mural is going to be?
So the Main Street mural, as we discussed a couple council meetings ago, was going to be we called it a temporary installation. So it'll be on a surface that's going to be on Main Street. And then it can actually travel. So once the event is over, it can go to City Hall, it can go to, the senior center, it can go to one of the fire departments, it can go, businesses can request that it be up in their area for, a couple weeks. So we're working on what that surface might be once we have the artist selected. Mm-hmm. And that will come to you. Those designs will come to council for final approval, of course. So it can move around. So hopefully we would want it in the main event area for sure. But we do envision that it would travel down Main Street as well. We'd have that opportunity available.
I like that. It's thinking out of the box. I love it. Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Vice Mayor, I have a comment.
Oh, oh, there you are. I'm sorry, Evelyn, Councilmember Chua.
Yes, Renee, is there a way like you make suggestions to the existing businesses there, maybe on how to decorate their facade in line with the color scheme, with the theme? If you can do that, I think that would help a lot in terms of decorating that Main Street. But you have to give them guidance on the color scheme and the theme. I think
that's a great suggestion. One of the immediate neighbors to the event area asked for that very information, like, hey, it would be great if we matched you, basically. So we'll continue to have those conversations down Main Street, but the great suggestion. Thank you so much.
So if we can move on to the next slide, and Jay, you're going to lead us through this.
Good morning, everyone. Jay Lee, Principal Planner with the Planning Department here, and I'm here to talk a little bit more about a long-range effort, definitely related to Main Street, but something that seeks to plan for Main Street in the future. And usually with the specific plan process, now that we're calling it the Gateway Main Street Specific Plan, you usually kick off the project first, and then you start the outreach. But in this situation, I think it was great that we were able to start the outreach even before kicking off the specific plan, which I think shows how important Main Street is to our city. And in partnership with the local nonprofit Catalyze SV, we facilitated a series of 3 community conversations from June to April of this year, and hopefully in preparation for the specific plan. And we did this to help facilitate discussions of revitalizing Main Street with our various stakeholders. The first conversation was held in April, and it focused on economic development and business. The second conversation was held on May 27th, and it focused on housing and how to promote more opportunities for everyone. And the third conversation, which was on June 24th, focused on history and culture and how we can celebrate that moving forward. So these conversations, which were held to engage anyone really who's interested in the revitalization of Main Street, especially local residents, we allowed participants to register online, and they were able to join the conversations through Zoom. And each conversation started with a presentation to introduce the topic, and then and the presentations were offered in both English and Spanish. And we also offered Spanish and Vietnamese language interpretation with live transcription in English, just so that everyone can participate. And following the presentation, the participants split up into smaller groups to allow for greater discussion, more meaningful conversations. And as you can see, we had approximately 30 participants, sometimes a little more in these meetings. And we believe that we received valuable input from Milpitas' residents, business owners, and other stakeholders on what Main Street can become and how we can realize this vision. And I'll quickly summarize some of the key themes and recommendations. There was an emphasis and a desire for diverse local businesses, to keep Main Street uniquely Milpitas. And this, to hopefully encourage individuals and families to purchase locally and come to the area. There was also a desire for alternative modes of transportation, obviously prioritizing Main Street, and the other streets, so that, we can minimize local traffic, but still at the same time encouraging biking, walking, and even public transit. There was also a desire for family entertainment and nightlife, just a place where there's activity, where it's vibrant, where people want to come and, have a good time. There was also a desire for a central and unique identity. There was a desire for the plan to examine how to identify, an area that really draws people to the neighborhood. And lastly, there was also, a desire for parks and community space. The plan should include spaces that connect people with each other and also with nature. So, we heard all of this feedback, and I think it'll be really helpful moving forward. Staff will use this feedback to inform the Gateway Main Street specific plan update process and develop goals and policies that further this desired vision from the community for Main Street. So a little bit about the timeline for the specific plan. We selected a consultant in July, and we are currently finalizing the scope of work and contract, which we're hoping to bring to council later this month. Then we will kick off the project shortly after. And then, with more community engagement that will happen through the rest of this year and early next year, then eventually get to drafting the specific plan and starting the CEQA analysis. And of course, throughout the process, we will have many checkpoints in with this group and the city council. And then we're hoping to complete the project late next year or early in 2023. And, I do want to emphasize that there will be a shift in the focus areas, whereas the previous plan kind of, covered all of Midtown. This plan will, really try to hone in on certain areas to prioritize redevelopment and revitalization in these areas. So the first one is Main Street, and also along Calaveras Boulevard, and also the Abbott and Thompson, Abbott Court and the Thompson Court area near the freeway. Next slide, please. So for this, relevant to this topic, this is the Main Street focus area. It will start at Weller Lane to the north and go down to Corning Street to the south, and cover the corridor, between Main Street and also some of Able Street. This area currently has a lot of small businesses, retail services, restaurants, and bars. There are also many community facilities concentrated in this area: the library, Valley Health Center, and also a daycare. But this area also has several historic and cultural resources, including churches and several historic buildings. So we do see this area as being a place where, there can be mixed use development, be a an area where you can really do everything that you want to do in Main Street. So, this will be one of the focuses, if not the greatest focus of the plan. So we just wanted to share that with this group, and then we look forward to working with our consultant to come up with some great solutions.
Thank you, Jay. And Alex, you can cover this slide.
I had one question for the previous speaker. Yes, so you mentioned about bike, making it accessible to the bikers. I would like to see the striping of the bike lanes to the green. You know how the new move is to stripe the bike lanes green. I think that would also add to the revitalization effort, because the people that go there will also be felt safe to be able to ride their bikes to that area. So I would like to make that recommendation, is to stripe the biking lanes green. So,
yeah, thank you for that recommendation. I will pass that along to our consultant, and we'll definitely explore that. And really any other ways, I think what you're trying to get at is a way to protect the lanes, make it more visible, just so that it's more appealing for riders. So thank you for that suggestion.
great, thank you.
Chair. You don't see my hand raised, right? You don't? Okay. It's a suggestion to Jay. And I would like to see, once you get the consultant on board and you have the specific, your plan is more strategic, more long-term. Can you make sure that you do be on the agenda of the subcommittee when you have some concrete strategic plans? Okay, that's for future. Because I would like to see more on the long-term. Pardon?
We will definitely do that.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Evelyn.
Good morning, Vice Chair Montano, and good morning, Councilmember Chua.
Good morning,
Pleasure
Alex.
to be here before you. We're going to start with Better Block, but I will be providing a presentation on that in just a little bit. So it's aligned with the Main Street revitalization effort that we're really talking about right now, but I'll get a lot more into it in just a little bit. So I'm just going to go forward with the Storefront Improvement Grant Program. As our Assistant City Manager mentioned, this is a really important project as it relates to economic vitality. And I'm pleased to report that we've developed the grant application, the program guidelines. We have an agreement by and between the city and the applicant that we developed in concert with BBK. And we're really close to finalizing a contract with an architect. And that's really important because this architect will provide design services and guide the applicant through the permit process. I'm excited to say that we've received our first application from Dr. Sandhu. You may know that she is the property owner of the space on South Main Street that includes the best sandwiches as well as the red chilies. So we will be working with her on a facade improvement and an outdoor dining parklet style improvement. In terms of community events, we like to say in economic development that we're brand influencers and we're bridge builders. So we're always ready to assist on any community events like Holiday Magic. You heard that economic development has been assisting Renee and Tegan and connecting with various businesses. So we're obviously very happy to do that. And as you heard, it's going very, very well. The next item that I want to report on is the potential of a business improvement district known as a BID. A few months ago, Nicole and Amine, our economic development specialist, and I walked down Main Street and we surveyed about 20 different businesses regarding just asking them a question of their interest in establishing a BID. If this effort is pursued, it would likely be a property-based bid versus a business-based bid. But anyway, I'm happy to report that the majority of the people that we talk to do in fact support the idea of establishing a business improvement district. And if we were to go that route and successful, this may be a path toward reestablishing a downtown business association. And the last item, certainly not the least, in terms of Main Street revitalization, is we're partnering with the planning department on the Gateway Main Street specific plan, working with Jay and Ned and the team. And we've been in various conversations with property owners that are very interested in real estate development along Main Street. So our role in economic development is quite broad, but one thing that we certainly do well is to partner with other city departments to facilitate real estate investment. And I can envision the downtown become an incredibly vibrant place by setting the right foundation for future development. And I pleased to hear Councilmember Chua's outlining of the mission statement, because I think it really aligns well with our economic development strategy that calls out business retention, attraction, expansion efforts, mostly in retail and restaurants, as well as placemaking efforts in along Main Street. So that is my update.
Great. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
And we're just going to wrap up here with some next steps, immediate next steps. So as Jay talked about, bringing the consultant award for the specific plan project to council later this month. We are also planning to bring back a discussion on kind of the use of the ARPA funds, the 500,000 that is slated for Main Street revitalization, as well as other updates related to the Main Street events coming up on October 5th. Alex will talk about the Better Block event soon. Right now it's scheduled in early November, but we'll be discussing some options with you. And then you heard from Renee about Holiday Magic. Very excited. We are all, as you can see, very excited to have this kind of coming up. And then the specific plan community engagement will really happen later this calendar year and early next calendar year, with the completion anticipated at the end of next calendar year. And as part of that, I know, Vice Mayor, you brought this up a few times. We hope to, once we go through the specific plan process, also then start looking at impact fees as part of that. But we kind of need to complete the specific plan to be able to do that. So with that, we'll conclude our presentation, available for questions, and just being mindful of the time. Vice Mayor, if you do need to leave at 10, we want to make sure we do have time to talk about Better Block. We do need some input that's time sensitive today.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Move on.
Okay,
That's fine. So now we are on,
great.
you did status, you did discuss the role of subcommittee, status update on Main Street elements, and D, Better Block update.
Yes.
I think Alex already did, right? Correct? Or is there more, Alex?
There's a separate presentation.
There is, yes.
We can
Okay,
bring the slide deck up.
Go ahead and
Is
continue.
that, will Rochelle do that, or do you want me to share my screen?
Go ahead and share, Alex.
Okay, give me a sec here.
So while we're waiting, Steve, there is a signage that states, it's right off of Calaveras. That signage will be removed or replaced, correct? When it's all beat up. It says Main Street.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then since it's a gateway to, you mentioned to Midtown, will there be an archway, or is that something that hasn't been discussed yet?
No, that hasn't been discussed, but it can be discussed here, it can be discussed in the specific
Yeah.
plan as well. And ultimately, that would end up being a CIP program discussion in your budget.
Yeah, an archway would really just make it pop. It would be a signal that this is an entrance into a revitalized area. Okay, thank you. We're moving on. Alex?
Yes, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, so yes, I am here to give you an update on Better Block Initiative. And so we're just gonna get right to it. Given that I think we only have a small amount of time, short amount of time, I'm just gonna get right to it here. For some reason. Okay, here we go. So the Better Block mission is to educate, equip, and really empower communities and their leaders to reshape and reactivate the built environment. So it's really about placemaking and ensuring that community leaders can see what a build can look like, which I'm going to give you some examples of just in a little bit, but it really is about empowering a community to look at what the future can look like. And so I'm just going to get right into it right here. Now my screen has you kind of on one side, but what I'm going to show you in the next few slides has to do with before and after pictures. So this is a intersection that you will see in the next photo. Is very busy, but apparently there have been some challenges with bicyclists potentially getting hurt here. So what the community did was to come together and design a build that then looked like this. And so what this does is keep people safe. As you can see, there's nice landscaping. There's green bike lanes so that bicyclists can stay safe while they're adjacent to vehicular traffic. And so it is mostly meant to be a build so that one can see what it's like in the future. And if it's successful, then there's an opportunity to go to the city and go through the proper permitting and create those solutions. Another example that I found really interesting is that apparently this particular corner here was known as a place where you could see not a lot of activities happening there, but it was known for drug dealing, and it wasn't a safe place. What the community ended up doing was bringing in Better Block, and through a community design, they were able to utilize various paint, temporary paint, pop-up kiosks, of which we are going to be talking about in just a little bit. You see nice landscaping. You see this vibrant feel. It feels safe, and now it's known as a safe haven, and drug dealing is not happening at this particular location. So you can get the sense of placemaking, as well as there is a component to a kind of a festival, but primarily it is known as a build. So Better Block equips communities to envision what spaces can look like in the future. So those are just a couple of very quick examples that we received from Better Block. I'm going to get to a little bit of background. In fiscal year 2019-2020, the City Council approved $50,000 toward this effort. It was the first time that we actually learned about Better Block, and we, as the Office of Economic Development, in concert with the City Manager's Office and the Planning Department, we started envisioning what placemaking could look like in and on Main Street in order to kind of invigorate that area. I will say too that when I first started a couple of years ago, I would ask people, what do you do? Where do you hang out in terms of a downtown? And I heard from many community members that they were leaving Milpitas for other areas, other downtowns. So that was one of the impetuses for us wanting to invigorate the area. The City Council, I think, appreciated that idea and set aside $50,000 in fiscal year 2019-2020. Also, the Better Block initiative was part of the Economic Development Trade Commission work plan back then, and we held multiple stakeholder and community meetings. We did a community survey where we learned about what brings people to the downtown, what they like, what they don't like. It's really a lot of good information. We developed a project website. We were scheduled to host an event on May 28th and May 29th of 2020, and we all know what happened there. Pandemic hit, and unfortunately we had to cancel the event. We did host a kickoff meeting at City Hall, as you can see in the photo there on the right-hand side. That was in kind of the latter part of 2020. People were very excited, but ultimately we thought, we all did, that not having this event in 2020 was the best thing for public health and safety. Most recently, as we've been talking more and more about the Main Street revitalization effort, we thought it would align very well with that work plan. And so we started engaging the consultant, Better Block. We've had presentations in front of the Rotary. Our Assistant City Manager, Shwini Kantak, gave a presentation to Rotary in July. We've had an Economic Development and Trade Commission meeting where we discussed this along with Better Block, a consultant, at the August meeting. We've touched base with the Chamber of Commerce twice at their monthly mixer in August, where We gave a presentation in this respect, as well as most recently at the September board meeting. And again, I just mentioned that we believe it aligns well with Main Street. This is just a graphic that was developed recently, and it kind of gives you a sense of walking onto what you'll see in a little bit. I'm going to show you an aerial that will depict this much better in a broader view. But this is basically looking eastbound onto Matt Lee's property next to the Sinorama and the G-Bar. And you can see this nice kind of entryway through public art and seated areas. In the background, you see the kiosk that would be built by the community and by city staff. And it's just a kind of a nice festive day. The way this works is the event is scheduled for November 5th, which is a Friday, November 6th on a Saturday, but the actual build and the workshop would happen that Wednesday and Thursday beforehand. So it's a matter of a couple of days to get this build to happen. So this will just give you a better idea of some of the elements. I'll start on the top left-hand side here, the kids play kind of entry area that you just saw in that last graphic. Going down here on the right-hand side, you see what's known as the Roberts Kiosk. This is part of the build where Better Block has works with a fabricator, and they cut out the pieces of wood, and part of the build is the community comes together and actually assembles these kiosks for vendors. The great thing about this and the sustainable part related to this is, of course, the city pays for this, the city owns it. We can move these kiosks to parks, to the surface parking lot, where we can envision in 2022 on a monthly basis, perhaps on a Saturday afternoon, we bring food trucks, have music, maybe a mobile farmers market, and it just becomes something that happens on a monthly basis. We are in touch with the Milpitas Library through the county, and we would bring in their mobile library for kids. We've been working with Renee and her team on the potential use of a metal container for a pop-up art gallery. And then on the bottom right-hand side, we would love to proceed with a wheat paste mural, which is a temporary mural, and with historical photos. You see the bistro set there for people to sit and enjoy the music and perhaps food. And then it's very community oriented and driven. So we are partnering with Great Mall Tires, and they are going to either loan or donate tires that we will develop as tire seats as well as tire planters. You can see that on the right-hand side. And then up on the top, you see the couch that we will, again, build, and perhaps these can be used in various places around the city to create placemaking. This is the aerial view of the event as designed, not necessarily approved yet, and I'll explain that in just a bit. Let me orient you here. If you look at the left-hand side, you see the N4 North heading upwards. That street there is Sarah, heading eastbound and into the T intersection of South Main Street. I'm going to orient you to the bottom left of the screen. That is Dr. Sandhu's property that I mentioned earlier. There at the bottom, you see Best Sandwiches and Red Chili's at the corner of Sarah and Main Street. What we envision happening there is a beer and wine garden. We would add some of these planters, have nice shade, string lights, and just make it a nice, inviting space. This particular effort would be led and operated by the Chamber of Commerce. So there's a nice partnership there. You see the street art, and it just has this very festive feel. But as it bleeds off of the parking lot and goes onto the street and the sidewalk, you then get a sense of making sure that we're protecting pedestrians along those crosswalks. We have heard from many community folks that traffic speeds can get pretty high there. So we believe that this is a nice visual in order to in order for people to have that cue to begin to slow down there. So as we cross the street, you see the much larger area there that's owned by Matt Lee. Both Matt Lee and Dr. Sandhu will be allowing us to use their property. And what you see there is more of the nice kind of festive street art. Starting on the top left side, you'll see that there's a pop-up art gallery on the storage container. It's that orange container that parallels Main Street, just to the right, just to the top and right of that is where we would locate the mobile library. We would have a reading nook and benches and a kids play area. This is familiar with the lot is currently dirt, so we would put down mulch, and then there would be a nice entryway into that area. And then as you get into the space here where my cursor is, you start seeing certainly the sail shades, the string lights. We have a stage for music. Right here, we see the kiosk, the wooden kiosk. We would be building these kiosks located here, along here, if you follow my cursor, and here. This would be on Friday. We have discussed 10 vendors and then perhaps bringing in another 8 vendors along this area for a Saturday's farmers market only. The way we envision this is Friday, it could be a taste of Milpitas with retail and restaurants, and then on Saturday, focusing on the mobile farmers market. Along the former Sinorama building here, we have located 3 food trucks. We believe we will probably likely move these to another designated area, as well as on Saturday, move these canopies and chairs, because we expect the historical Weekdays mural to be located on this wall that faces northbound. And then lastly, we have gotten permission from Matt Lee to utilize the former Sinorama building, clean it out, that first portion of it. This is about a 4,000 square foot building, but clean out this area so that we can have a pop-up art gallery. I'm going to move on. That's generally what the event looks like at this point in terms of its design. So this is, as we've indicated, it's all about partnerships and collaborations. You see the list of city departments that we have been partnering with, and the partners down there at the bottom, the 2 property owners that I've mentioned, Dr. Sandhu and Mr. Lee. We've talked about the Chamber of Commerce assisting us, not just operating and managing the Beer and Wine Festival, Beer and Wine Garden, excuse me, as well as helping us with marketing and advertising. We're in conversations with the Unified School District in regards to potential entertainment. We've already talked about the library, and I mentioned that the Great Mall Tire Outlet has been great in potentially donating or lending us some tires for those tire seats and planters. This is just a quick look of the individuals that have been participating from the community. 2 block captains. Those block captains are responsible for marketing and programs, as well as making sure that there's volunteers, materials lead, vendor lead, the beer and wine garden lead, and then we have, in some instances, we have assistants in that regard. So I need to move my screen around here so I can see these bullet points. So just to kind of get you to where we are today, we have experienced some challenges. I want to describe what those are. And I'll start with the fact that we're having some challenges as it relates to staffing resources. This event is taking a lot more time than what we envisioned. Part of it has to do with the scope creep. In 2020, our design and the event was actually much simpler. We were going to utilize the surface parking lot of where the ice rink will be located for Holiday Magic. And we were simply going to have a build by erecting these vendor kiosks and have a beer and wine festival and perhaps some public art. So it was quite simple, and we stayed within our budget. This particular year, in 2021, for various reasons, there has been a scope creep in that we've had more interest in doing more programming type things. And perhaps it has to do with the pandemic, and we were so isolated in 2020 that we want to get some level of normalcy in 2021 and do more of that, meaningful community gatherings. We've noticed that the materials costs have increased, as well as there's been challenges with delivery during the pandemic. That there were some items that we normally would go to the grocery store and they were available. Lumber has increased dramatically in terms of its prices. The build would include wood for the build out. Those materials costs have increased quite a bit. Also during the pandemic, the supply chain has been disrupted. So if we were to place the order today, it's likely that the delivery is going to be delayed. So that's why we have a very tight schedule. Last year, we had a lot more time to plan. We had the community meetings. We were communicating with the city council more frequently. This year, we just have a much tighter schedule. We're less than 8 weeks away from the event. Also, the Better Block event budget has increased, partly related to the materials cost and the schedule, as well as the consultant needing to spend more time on this effort. And then, as Renee mentioned earlier, we have to obviously talk about the fact that we're still very much in a pandemic, and we've seen an increase in the Delta and now the new Mu variant that's made its way from Latin America into the United States and into Santa Clara County. So we're very mindful of public health and safety. This last slide has to do with options. And so what we'd like to share with you is kind of where we've landed here. We have, I think, 4 options that we'd like to get feedback from the subcommittee on. And the first one, and this is not any preferred, or preference, I would say, but the first one is to continue the event, but it would require more funding. We've listed some pros and cons here to kind of give you a sense of how that may work. On A, continue the event. The event continues to take place on November 5th and 6th as planned, but in order to move ahead, it would require no changes based on that design that you saw earlier. The cons would be that, of course, it would require more staff resources, more funding for the consultant. We learned recently about a potential surcharge for the materials ordering timeframe. So there's not only the ordering, and then we have to have a contract with the fabricator to cut out these wooden pieces for these what are known as wiki blocks. So B is kind of similarly, but a little different. Continue the event, but scale it back. So the pro here is that the event takes place, but with significantly less staff resources, and we would go toward more basic design element, and we would manage all of that within the existing budget. The cons, of course, is still going to require staff resources and more funding for the consultant, we believe. We've been told that perhaps that may be anywhere between $2,500 and $5,000 additional dollars. And I've already mentioned the surcharge for ordering the materials. C would be to defer the event to 2022. That would be a pro, would be a spring of 2022. It would give us more opportunity for community engagement and working not only with the subcommittee, but as well as the city council. The possibility of using ARPA funding through the community events, and then it allows us, the economic development team, to focus on economic development priorities. And so one of the cons, or a couple of cons here, would be that we'd likely lose Better Block as a consultant next year. We may lose these wonderful community volunteers that have created great synergy. And so I want to say thank you to them. And so that's one possibility. The last one is just canceling the event. For us in economic development, that means that we can reprioritize and focus on Main Street revitalization efforts like the facade improvement grant program or storefront improvement grant program, this business improvement district idea that we've been talking about, and then of course continuing to help parks on the Holiday Magic event, and just ensuring that we continue to keep the public health in mind. The con would be that we'd lose the opportunity to align Better Block with Main Street revitalization. Perhaps we might lose community volunteers and the synergy, and of course the loss of staff time in the event, and that's what we've been doing in the last couple of months. So I've given you a lot of information. That is the conclusion of my presentation. I see that it is 10 o'clock, and I believe, Chair, you need to get going pretty soon. So I would ask the subcommittee to provide feedback on these options that you see before you.
So Alex, I have to till 10:15. So my appointment is at 10:30. So we're okay. Does Evelyn?
Yes. There's so many data, information. I'm gonna go down to basics. Alex, give me, what are you trying to achieve? Give me 2 or 3 takeaways from this effort.
And that's a really good question. And I want to start where I started earlier about the primary focus of Better Block, which is to create a space where people gather. It's placemaking. We want to invigorate Main Street. And one way of doing that is through this build. So we'd like to have pop-up retail, perhaps some public art, and just bring more people to downtown. We want the businesses that are generally located in that designated T intersection to benefit from this event, as well as other Milpitas businesses, of course. And this is part of our economic development strategy. Again, it's aligned with Main Street Revitalization. So those are the things that we are trying to achieve.
Would you achieve the same objectives with the scale down, the one that was budgeted for from 2020, with a little bit more funding? Would you be able to achieve your objectives, your 3 objectives?
I think that we can. However, I want to be honest that we have to get back to Better Block consultant. They're obviously, you've heard about the challenges. We're in a tight deadline, so we've been told that there is a way to possibly make up some of that lost time in the schedule, but it will cost us that additional consultant fee. At this point, estimated between $2,500 and $5,000. So the answer is yes, but we would have to we would have to do less of the programming and more of the primary action, which is the build, and then celebrate the build on Friday evening and then Saturday through these vendors and food and entertainment.
I think that 2,500 to 5,000 is manageable. My next question is, since, as you know, we're gearing up for the holiday magic, which most of the things that you enumerated is a duplication of what's going to happen if this is happening in November 5 and 6. So if we're starting in December, I think we're starting in December 5th for the holiday magic. And so it's just a matter of a few weeks, and then we have this big event. So I'm leaning towards I don't want to cancel it because I think it's a good effort. It's a good event to have. And it's also, since this is our first time starting out on the original budget and starting out on a smaller scale, I think it's the right way to go as far as I can see. So that's my feedback for now. And
thank you, Councilor Ochoa.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Alex, thank you for the presentation. I think either B or C, B is a continuing event. I also agree with Councilman Ochoa. You've already put a lot of effort in this, and it wouldn't do justice to just cancel it or defer it. I think just move it forward. But I would like, as I am in agreement with Councilman Ochoa, that we need to keep it simple, and because of the cost. And I think I know we want to do a grand scale, but since it's a 2-day event, I think it needs to be kind of reel it in and make it more realistic. The other thing I had, just manage with the existing budget. Oh, the other question I had, so how much are we paying this consultant?
Yes, I'm glad that you asked that because I obviously want to be transparent in that respect. The consultant contract is $53,000. However, there is, and that's inclusive of not just the consultant, but the materials costs.
Okay, so it includes the materials.
But
well, we're going to have to scale back on some of those materials. Like I said, it needs to be it's a 2-day event. I can't see why we're spending almost it's just a lot of money, half of $100,000. It's, for a 2-day event, just doesn't seem justifiable. But I'm sure that you and staff will come up with a plan to reel it in, because that's do we really need a consultant, I guess, is my question. I mean, since we have all these volunteers, is there a way to brainstorm, or I'm just kind of
Yeah, the Better Block Foundation is very unique, and there aren't a lot of consultants like that. It basically started over 10 years ago. Someone in a neighborhood in Dallas asked, can we make this block better? How do we do that? So it's a lot of effort. It's not an event planner per se, but it's really designing this transformation of a specific area. So it's part of the build. It's educating. There's a report at the end of the effort here. So we can look for other placemaking type of consultants. I think we can find them, but they would be geared more toward events and community engagement. This is just a very unique space that's known as tactical urbanism, and it's very community oriented and driven. And so I would think if we don't do this, or if we were to defer this, then we may lose them. We need to get back to this consultant and discuss what scaling down means and whether they can still continue to work with us. Because if we scale it down, we may have savings in materials and things of that nature, but the consultant still needs to develop another graphic. So they have an actual architect, a landscape architect, that developed these graphics that you saw earlier. So there would be additional costs there. So we really have to get back to this consultant today and start really getting that better sense of, can it be done? We think it can be, but it's going to be a really tight time frame for all of us, and will depend more on the volunteers.
Yeah, I agree. Now, I'm glad for that clarification, and we're already 3/4 of the way through, and I'd hate to just have him or her not move forward with this. So yeah, I'm gonna go with B to move it forward.
Vice Mayor.
Evelyn, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And Alex, I would like to have some input on the vendors. So your vendor captains can make suggestions, make a list of suggestions, and present it out to the subcommittee for review.
Oh, great idea.
And Councilmember Chua, I appreciate the recommendation and suggestion. We actually had a conversation with the consultant yesterday about the possibility of that happening. The response was it would be unlikely. It would affect the schedule so much that it would be unlikely that Better Block would continue as our consultant in that regard. We do have.
What do you mean? What was the feedback?
The feedback was if we include that recommendation, that, well, let me just say that these vendor applications were supposed to be issued last week, and we didn't issue them because we knew that there would be a subcommittee or the chance of a subcommittee being established, which happened on Tuesday, and here we are on Friday. So we're really behind on those vendors. So if we have input by the city council.
No. Just the subcommittee, not the city council.
Okay, we would likely then have to establish another meeting.
You can have it on Monday. I mean, I would like to see those vendors.
Okay, well, we would issue the vendor applications, and the Chamber of Commerce would help us with that, as well as our contact list with local vendors, local businesses. So, okay.
Alex, if I could just clarify, so we'll be getting the applications out, and then Councilmember Chua, do you want to see who applies, or what do you want us to bring? Or once we have some recommendations on the selection, it is a pretty, as Alex mentioned, we are on a pretty accelerated time frame. So just trying to understand how we can make it all work and still meet the November date.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to do, to meet the schedule as well. But I would like to see those. My concern is that have we reached all the vendors, all the potential vendors here in Milpitas? Have we done enough outreach for them? Because if you give me the form, I will go out there and ask, and I'm going to spend time to reach out to the businesses and say, this is an opportunity, and are you interested? If you give me that, I will do that.
Great. So Alex, how long will the vendor application process be if we get the applications out? I mean, I think Councilmember Chua, you want to make sure we have extensive outreach and to kind of the relevant folks in the community. So how long will that process be, Alex?
Yeah, I'm going to bring in Daniel Degu. He's our lead on behalf of the city in this project. So Daniel, if you can unmute and respond to this question, please.
Yeah, so the answer to that question, and just to kind of add to Alex's point, we were looking to get, well, actually the answer should be 2 to 3 weeks was our anticipated plan of having applications open for businesses in Milpitas to apply.
When did you open it up?
We have not opened it up at this point.
We waited until this meeting.
Time. That's the perfect time to do an outreach. Yeah.
And yeah, and I agree. We need to reach out to the local vendors. There are quite a few in Milpitas, and maybe we can get some suggestions. Not sure who would we give those suggestions to.
Alex.
Us, the Office of Economic Development. Yeah, Daniel and I.
Okay.
Okay. Do you have a flyer for this that we can hand out?
We do have a flyer. We, again, decided to not issue it or release it because of this meeting here today.
Okay, so go
yes.
ahead and release that and give us the form, soft and hard copies. Put it in my inbox, and I'm going to start going out there and asking businesses.
Great.
Yeah, and the whole point is try to attract local vendor, Milpitas vendors. That's important.
Right.
That's the purpose. Yes, exactly. We will just be upfront. We will speak with our consultant after this meeting to ensure that they can do that and follow that.
Great. Thank you.
I don't understand why you need to consult with them. It's our effort.
Yes, but they've indicated to us that any possible change or alteration to the schedule can mean we may no longer be able to work with this consultant.
Alex, if I could just clarify, I think what the subcommittee is asking that they can have a role in sort of just the outreach piece. So we'll still follow the process and the schedule as we plan to in terms of getting the applications out and going through the selection process. But I think that'd be great if they can also assist with the outreach to the community.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
So should I expect that today, the flyer and the application and the website,
yes,
or whatever the link?
We'll be in touch, Councilmember Chua.
Okay,
yes.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, great. And I just want to make sure, Vice Mayor, for the previous item, there weren't any hands raised, but we should just check on public comment before you close the item.
Okay, great. So is there anyone on that public comment that someone that we can open it up for public comment now?
Yeah, there's 3 people, but nobody's raised their hands yet. So we'll just give it a minute to see if anybody wishes to speak. Okay, I don't see any raised hands, Vice Mayor.
Okay. So since, is there a move to close the public comment?
So move.
Okay, second.
Vice Mayor, I just want to make sure we're clear on the direction on what was given just, a few minutes ago. Alex, are you clear?
I am clear. We're moving forward with what was option B on the screen and making sure we provide you and the vice chair with the flyers, both soft copy and hard copy, so that you can reach out to local businesses. We too, of course, are doing that. It will be Milpitas-based businesses in this event.
And I would think that you would tap on the PIO to get us going on the social media. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Chair.
Thank you, Evelyn. With that, we will schedule the next meeting. Staff, do you have a recommendation for the next meeting, or Councilmember Chua?
I think whenever Alex needs us, we should be available. Whenever you need us, Alex, we're here. Even if it's on a weekend or late evenings. We want this to be successful.
Thank you.
So this
Is there-
dialogue was,
Okay, excuse me, Vice Mayor.
Go
Is
ahead.
there anything else that you need from us that would help you? Alex?
Not at this time. Thank you, though.
Okay, thank you.
thank you, Evelyn. So thank you, everyone, and this dialogue was very helpful. And this Better Block event is going to be very successful, and just reach out to us and if you have any questions, and also the community, any input is appreciated. Because we want to work as a team, making it, put all the pieces together. And thank you, staff, for all your hard work. We really appreciate it. With that, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice.
Thank you. Thank
Hi,
you.
Ned.
Bye.
Bye.